And the one and only purpose we have here today is to protect your children. This is why we're here. And there's going to be a number of people, not a lot of speeches here, but a number of people will speak here, primarily mothers and people engaged with youth and so on, and who have been standing on this issue with us already. And we're going to go from here later on, and we will march to the offices of the Irish National Teachers Organisation up on Parnell Square. So we invite you to stick with us. We're going to go down here across to O'Connell Street and up that direction. Now, we've been asked, and it makes good sense, I'm sure everyone appreciates it, safety of everybody here is very important, so be careful of the Luas trams, especially as they come up and down. Make sure that the tracks are free and don't anybody trip up and whatnot. So, we have last June written to Minister Foley asking her a series of questions which were essentially, is the department deciding policy on face coverings in our schools? Because the information we have from a host of teachers, some of whom we will hear from later on at the INTO offices, the information we have is that decisions are being made at a local level, and parents are being left to believe, I suppose, that this is immovable policy of the department, that face coverings are there and there are no exceptions allowed. Now, a lot of teachers have experienced real distress, and children have experienced real distress, as indeed have staff. Teachers have suffered medically, they've suffered mental health issues, they've suffered professional issues, teaching standards have dropped, health of young kids especially has dropped. We know of the increased percentage of children who are on antidepressant medication today. This is not normal. Kids should be out playing sports, they should be learning, they should be interacting with their peers. It should be a great experience in their youth, rather than an introduction to oppression, to being careful of their neighbours, to being careful of their friends, covering up, hiding. This is not leading to a healthy society, and we have to bring a stop to it. So we're back to ask these questions today of Minister Foley. Who is deciding this policy in our schools? And is it the boards of management? And we're asking her to confirm that the department has ultimate responsibilities for how the schools in our state are managed. She is doing so on behalf of the citizens of Ireland, on behalf of all the parents, and on behalf of the staff who are employed to deliver that education service. So she has a duty and a responsibility to ensure that safety does apply. The famous health and safety that we've all been told year in, year out, kids can't run in schoolyards and so on because of health and safety. Now their health is being seriously damaged on the basis of a policy which actually is in contravening even of government law in regards to face covering, which does allow for exceptions. So we have to insist on that minimum, that exception on medical grounds is allowed. Now, I know many parents have been asked, when they have raised questions in the schools, they've been asked to provide medical references and all that. This is contrary to the law. It is a violation of the Equal Status Act. People need only express that they have an exemption in law, and that is sufficient. Nobody has the right to question them. Nobody, especially not a board of management, especially not any member of staff in any school. So this should be respected, and Minister Foley has that duty of care to our children to ensure that that is respected. We raised a very serious question which was actually given to us by teaching staff who are working professionally and who we rely upon to teach our children the right values in society. The question was, where is the risk assessment? Who has carried out any risk assessment in regards to the long-term wearing of face coverings in schools for either the staff or students? To our knowledge, certainly to mine, the answer is there is no such risk assessment carried out. Why again, in the era of health and safety, is there no such assessment, especially when the health of our children is at stake? We'll hear more about the unions later, but where are they to protect the rights of their own members who have to endure these conditions as well? Before we get into it, I do know actually someone has pointed out to me there's a family here who've experienced a recent death consequent to the taking of one of these vaccines. They're not safe. I know myself, I interviewed somebody less than a week ago in Cork, a professional health worker working in the University Hospital in Cork City, who explained to me that in their duty to admit people to the A&E department, they themselves individually are receiving between 9 and 11 people who are arriving there suffering damage from vaccines, adverse drug reactions to the COVID vaccines. I know the journal.ie has done a hit piece on us to say this is not true, but it is true because I know the individual in a personal connection. This is true, and not only is it 9 or 10 individuals, 9 to 11 I think was the words, there are 12 people engaged in admitting patients in the CUH in Cork. That will put in excess of 100 vaccine-injured people presenting at A&E in the University Hospital Cork every single day. This is a serious problem, and it is doubly serious when that is being shifted now onto our children, who rely upon us to look after them. Young 12-year-olds, even 16-year-olds now, they are doing with no parental consent. This is an outrage against families. It's an outrage against the primary carers of these children, and they're still children at the age of 16. But for 12-year-olds to be lined up to receive what is still an experimental treatment that has such dire consequences on a daily basis is nothing less than criminal. It is wrong. It goes up there equivalent to the abuses from the Tuam babies' homes, the industrial schools, the laundries and so on that we have seen. Abuses we have seen that the state has been complicit in without being called to account. And it seems no one is to be called to account still for the fact that they're breaking all the norms of science. They want to medicate kids in somebody else's interest. This is uncivilized. Not only is it completely unnecessary, it's uncivilized. It is not right to do. So we are here because we are concerned to protect our children. And we want Minister Foley and all those with responsibility for rights, with responsibility for childcare and for education to take this on board. They have a sworn solemn duty to do that. They are well paid, they are hugely resourced to do it. So they should just do it. I want to make one final point to you in that since our initial raising of these questions last June, we have an additional concern that we see debated in the media these days, and that is the thought that come September when the schools open, kids will be segregated and separated based on their vaccine status. We already have reports from some teachers from the past term where kids were being asked whether their parents had been vaccinated or not. Now the debate is, will kids who are vaccinated be allowed to stay in school in a situation where there has been a COVID case by that great PCR test identifying it, but the non-vaccinated kids are to stay at home? What value does this teach our children? Is it not just another coercion using peer pressure from the kids to encourage vaccines? Is this a humane or an ethical way to administer anything that they're calling a medication? Of course it's not. It's an abuse of our children.
But sure, when they're slaughtering them, the unborn babies,
Yeah.
what do you expect?
So hoorde honchekle ogend mar sin, a ha cúpla den eile chun labhartling, dús bhallum Rachel ní on, coming to Rachel. Rachel from the very active group here in Dublin involving parents and kids, and she has brought her little darling with her, thank God. Rachel, would you just give us some of your experience?
Rachel, you don't need to take it. Are you sure? Okay.
Run this way. Run this way.
Hi everybody. Yes, I'm not great at public speaking. I usually have stuff prepared, but it's been a very busy week for me. So I just wanted to say I have two small children. One is due to start primary school in September. Primary school, I suppose, is not so much a concern at this point in time, but definitely the secondary schools are where the issue is at the moment. Having said that, even as a mother of two small children, I am concerned about what is coming for the future for them for primary school. So that's why I'm here today. I don't want children to be segregated based on their private medical status. Vaccines is a personal issue that every parent has a right to make for their children, and it shouldn't have no bearing on how that children is perceived by their peers or by anybody else. So the fact that this is the kind of tactics and stuff that the government is using to try and coerce parents into vaccinating their children is obscene in my view, and immoral and unethical in all sense of the words. So I would ask parents out there, you don't have to be even concerned about this vaccine. It's not about the vaccine. It's about segregating people, pitting people against one another, and essentially setting people on each other. It's unacceptable. So no matter where you stand on vaccinations, this is not an issue about vaccinations. Like I said, it's about moral interests of the children. And everyone should be equal in society. There should be none of this, nothing. I can't believe that I'm even standing here having to utter the words that's coming out of my mouth. It is truly shocking. So with that, I'll just hand back over the mic. I'm distracted here with the baby, so I'm trying to get my thoughts and process. So thanks very much for everyone for coming out. And just keep talking to people. Keep it civilised, talk to people about it, and just, spread the word and explain to them it isn't about vaccination. You can be pro, whatever, any opinions you have on it. This isn't about it. It's about segregating children from each other and people from each other and dividing people, and it's wrong. Okay, thank you.
We have another young mother here from Cork. Morgan, would you like to give us just some of your own thoughts on this question?
Hello. I want to thank everyone, obviously, who came out today, because we're all here together for the children. We're all here together for the children, but also for the teachers as well. My own circumstances, I have a 3-year-old son, so obviously I'm in the same position. He's not in big school yet, but there are a lot of concerns being raised at the moment. In my view, like, he's going through a situation at the moment where he could end up being segregated down the line when he goes into school. So what I need to do as a parent is I need to be the one to stand up for him. I need to be brave. He loves superheroes at the moment, so what I was thinking was, he doesn't realise it, but he's got a real life superhero fighting for him every day. And that's what we all need to be to our children right now. This is not the time to be afraid. This is the time to have courage and to stand up if you're going to stand up for anything. It has to be for the children. There's no one else to protect them. It's your main duty as an adult, as a parent, to do what you can for them. I'm prepared to put myself in a lot of awkward positions coming up in the next few months of the next few years, and I think we need to get in that kind of headspace. Don't be afraid of what people are thinking about you. Like I said, it's your duty to stand up for them. So put that at the back of your mind and be prepared for some fights that might come down the way. I also know that with the segregation and stuff in the school, the kids will end up being peer pressured. So the kids that are a bit older now, I think they would be very easily influenced into getting the vaccine so that they don't feel left out. And this is wrong. People, for the older kids, I think it might be time to sit down and talk to the children. If you haven't done so already, speak to them about what's going on in the world and tell them why you honestly feel like they shouldn't get it. Nobody should be pressured into it. And we just need to all stand together now. My take on it at the moment is save your energy for what you can. Stop arguing with anybody if you've been doing that, and just keep on doing your own thing. Everyone here probably thinks the same, so everybody knows how we feel. If they want any advice, they will come to us looking for it. So now you just need to be prepared to keep on the fight. Get yourself ready to protect your family in ways like growing food. Get the kids involved in that big time. And at the end of the day, nothing is more important than your health and being with your family.
Thank you, Morgan. Up Cork. This is we're visiting. Some of us are visiting Dublin today. The next time we come back, we're taking Neil McCarthy home with us. We're happy here as well to have joining us, as in the last time, Teen Herd and Health Freedom. So I'm going to ask Linda, if you wouldn't mind, give us just a view, what you think.
Welcome everybody today. We set up this Teen Herd group out of a real need to have teens' voices heard, because children who were exempt from Mass weren't able to go to school. They were put in satellite rooms. They had perspex screens around them, and that is no way for kids to be taught. And they were made feel like ostracised. They're bullied, and it has just been so horrible for them. And their voices were forgotten about. So that's how we initially set this up, to have their voices heard. But you see here as well, we have herd immunity. Children have immunity, natural immunity. They do not need this injection. They do not need this injection, and like the mask is a massive issue, but this is even a bigger one. They are being coerced. Parents are being coerced into getting their children injected with this experimental injection, and it is so wrong. They're being told that their children will have to stay at home for 2 weeks if they're close contacts, like Dermot was saying, and they've also been told that, you know, they're going to feel ostracised at school if they don't get it. And teachers are putting a huge amount of pressure on the children to be vaccinated. There's already emails going to parents from schools saying that we need all the children injected, or else we're not going to be a safe community. So parents are going to feel that if they don't get their children injected, that they're going to feel responsible. But they need to know that they will be hugely responsible if they consent their children getting injected with this experimental jab. They need to know that they have a voice, that they can stand up to these principles. These principles are dictating. They do not have the right to do what they're doing. Masks are not mandated in schools. You know, the government have mandated. They're just guidelines, and it's the principals who are dictating. And like even forcing children to wear masks outdoors, down at the beach. Like my kids go to a school close to the beach and they're wearing masks, march down to the beach wearing masks, like soldiers. It's just disgusting and deplorable. And we are not going to allow this happen. And we're going to stand up to these principles. We can't allow this happen. And we have a voice. We have a voice. So I implore you all just to spread the word, and just like it's huge what's happening here, and we got to protect our kids. End of.
Thank you very much, Linda and Teen Herd. I'd like to introduce Miriam Keogh from Health Freedom. Again, has stood with us at the last occasion and have ploughed the furrow, if you like, in defence of children's rights. So Miriam, fall to road.
You too, Dermot. Thank you everybody for coming out today. I'm representing Health Freedom Ireland this morning with some of my colleagues who are here in the crowd with me. We've been fighting for a long time in regard to vaccinations, but in particular we've been sort of morphed into this position now where we're looking at this thing being rolled out to children. Can I make a very, very clear point here, which I think has been forgotten by all the Irish, the medical profession, the scientific profession? These vaccines do not confer immunity. Do people realise that? Yes. Secondly, they do not stop you from transmitting the virus. Okay? So there is no difference between a vaccinated or an unvaccinated person. Yet we are being segregated like dogs left out in the cold because we're considered unclean and riddled with viruses and lethal infections. Is that okay? No! No. It's absolutely repugnant. And if you look at the Nuremberg Code, which was 74 years old yesterday, this happened in our history in the past. A drip feed of hatred towards a marginalised community. Well, I will not allow it to happen on my watch. And if parents just took a breath, stopped being afraid and looked at the research, they would realise injecting their children does not make them safe or immune. The risks are far greater than any of the benefits. And I'm not sure if any of you heard this week, but there was an amazing doctor interviewed on Pat Kenny, News Talk, Pierre Curry. And he spoke at length about the suppression of ivermectin across the planet, a safe and effective treatment for COVID-19. Why is that not being allowed to be prescribed by doctors in this country? Yes. Because this is not about protection of our children. This is about growth, bloated profits. Yes! You know, and until people sit down and look at the facts, the data and the statistics, they will realise children are not at risk for this virus. They are not at risk for passing it on. And he made a very interesting and alluded to a statistic, 0.08% fatality in children with COVID-19. That's less than the flu virus annually. So we are injecting our children with something where there is no need, and we do not know the long term. Not one scientist knows the long term insidious effect of these vaccines. They're not even vaccines, they're gene therapies. Yes! So I think we've all got to stop calling them vaccines. They are gene therapies and they alter DNA, and that's a known fact. You put that into a young developing mind, body, and brain. We have no idea of the long-term insidious effects and what's going to happen in another 10 years when these kids want to have children. You know, infertility, exactly, cancerous growths. We're already, as Dermot alluded to already, seeing massive allergic reactions, adverse events, neurological impairment. I know of somebody who got it this week and shook for 4 days. That was her second shot. She shook from head to toe for 4 days. I can personally testify to that. I am raw trying to warn people about this. But people just seem to be in a sleep sickness in this country, wandering along believing this is going to give them freedom. This is not giving anyone freedom. This is just tightening the chain around control. Every week it's getting worse. Here we are nearly 17 months down the road. We're all wearing masks still. We're all actually told now we can't even eat in restaurants with our families and children. So what has any of this lockdown, masks, vaccination actually done? Things are worse than they ever were. So I think the one thing I would like to finish up with today is to say we need to unite as Irish people to fight this. We need not to be at one another's throats. It's going nowhere. You have the us and them, and they're driving that agenda even harder. So if, as this lovely lady said from Cork, you have someone. I was out of the GPO with Linda last week. We were handing out, flyers, and some guy walked up to me and just tore it up and threw it on the ground in front of my face. I mean, that is the actual vitriol you're being subjected to. Another woman literally just said, "Fuck off, anti-vaxxer," excuse my language, in front of the children. But I mean, when you're trying to tell the truth to people about something, do you deserve that kind of abuse? No, you don't. The truth is that these vaccines are not safe for children. We don't know enough about them. They're not even vaccines, as I said. So I'm not going to get into this just here with this gentleman, because ultimately there's a huge amount of research there you can do for yourself if you want to find it. It's there for anybody who wants to find it. You can find it on any platform. You can find it on any platform that you want. No. So look, I'm just going to finish up by saying I really think we need to be strong. We need to be ferocious for our children. We need to push back vehemently against this. There is not a mandate in this country for vaccines. It doesn't exist, so people are being bullied and coerced into it. So I'm asking people, Find that courage in the depths of yourself, bring it up into consciousness and start fighting for this generation, because there'll be nobody left to fight for them when everyone is sick and not able to cope in the future. Thank you.
Folks, before we finish up, can people see what I have in my hand? Anybody with the video cameras might want to look at it. This is a letter from Pfizer Corporation on their headed paper. On the 16th of July this year, Pfizer wrote to all the medical practitioners in Ireland regarding the adverse reactions to their so-called vaccines, and they're highlighting the myocarditis and pericarditis and so on, especially in younger men. And without going through the whole letter, they're underlining the necessity for reporting of the adverse reactions. And they're telling us, they're telling the medical practitioners, they're telling them that all suspected adverse reactions may also be reported to Pfizer's medical information on 440-800-633-363. They're advising people, medical practitioners, to report the adverse reactions directly to the laboratory. So we will not hear of the damage that is being caused, because our state and our state reporting systems are not being informed at the request of Pfizer's. So as other teachers have told us in the past, not only are Pfizer's dictating school curriculum, bypassing the approval for such courses in our schools, but they're actually requesting the medical practitioners to report the adverse reactions directly to them. So that's a question to An Taoiseach. Why are you allowing this to happen?
They pay them.
They're paid off. The medical practitioners are paid off. Pfizer's are paid off.
HSE.
Our media is paid off. And on that topic, and as I finish, may I bring your attention to this great, now famous Cork umbrella. RTE is the virus. Fake news. There's no journalism in Ireland today. It's gone. There's no reporting of information to inform the citizens. It's all gone. It's gone with our rights. We ourselves, we have some independent media here. I see Irish Inquiry, I see Corruption Awareness Ireland, I see Change campaign for Make Change Happen. And ourselves, we must be in contact. And I see the People's Paper here. I'm involved in that. We must create our own media and our own reporting systems so that we are informed, and we must organise to bring an end to this. So when we finish later on at the other end by the INTO offices, at the end I want people to do a practical thing. There are parents here today, I know, and in contact with us, who are experiencing difficulty in the schools. So we'd like them to come forward and introduce to each other, because being isolated means we get defeated. When we're together, we're strong. So we'd like people to introduce to each other and teachers to get to know each other. I know there's an informal teachers network supporting today's event as well, and that should grow. Teachers should take responsibility. I know they have a Telegram group and so on. You'll see them for a while. And there's Telegram, the groups are available in T-Hearn or contact ourselves. We need to be in contact and organising. So, Stonham Gurdeshine Efag Tomlin Accorda. Monday marchers, Ami is telling us. She wasn't on the list.
Just 1 minute.
Okay. Sarah from Health Freedom Ireland, who I think is involved also with, what's it called? Irish Inquiry. Yes, has a couple of up on the raw.
Thank you. Yeah, very few. Can you hear me?
No.
Oh, can you hear me? Okay. I want to just add something. I don't know if any of you saw the roundtable that was released last night at 9 o'clock. I hope it was good and informative. But I just want to reiterate something that Dr. Jerry Waters said. This is on the record. This has been recorded. This is from our deputy health, what's he called, the IMO, Irish Medical Officer, the deputy, Ronan Glynn. So this is on the record. He said to the GPs at the ICGP meeting that in regard to the vaccines, they did not know if they worked. They did not know if they caused any side effects. They did not know if it prevented transmission. But because 63% of Irish people implicitly trust their GPs, he was asking all the GPs to just simply row in behind this, regardless of the fact that they do not have that information. Now, how can people simply just trust the GP when the GP themselves now know that that information is missing? Safety, long-term studies cannot possibly be around because it hasn't been around long enough. And there are three categories. There's the acute, which is within 30 days of receiving it. There's the medium term within about 6 months, which they're now seeing from the trial, the previous trial, not the one that's running now that everyone's participating in unwillingly or unwittingly. And then there's the long term, and the long term is simply not known. So there's so much evidence out there, and people need to go out and do their own research. Because you can listen to me, you can listen to anyone here and go, well, what do they know? Well, we know what we know because we are actually researching thousands of hours. Thousands of hours. It takes effort, it takes energy. And if you're not going to do it for your children, then who will? Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, Accorda, we're going to march from here to the offices of the Irish National Teachers Organisation. We're not trying to single them out because our message is the same message to the ASTI and to the TUI. It's just the offices are so spread out we can't be everywhere. So we're going to go to the INTO office, and I think some teachers may voice some opinion there, and we'll conclude our proceedings there. So this banner, if you would mind, take position out in the middle of the road, and we will proceed from here. Gordomina Malgav.
You look lovely. Did you do something here? Very nice. Sandra.
Folks, we're ready to move out here, and we're going to go down the street here, take our first turn to the right. We're going to cross over O'Connell Street to the far side, and go up to the top end of O'Connell Street by Parnell Statue. At the top end, we'll turn right or left, rather, and then right up by the Parnell Square, as far as the offices of the INTO. So, good. Away Lincoln, arriving aboard the Tullaby. Now everybody please be careful of traffic. Protect your children. Protect our children. Protect our children. Protect our children. Protect our children. Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone. Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone. Protect our children. Protect our children. Protect our children.
Leave our kids alone! Leave our kids alone!
Holy Harris, leave our kids alone. Holy Harris, leave our kids alone. Holy Harris, leave our kids alone. Leave our kids alone. Harris, leave our kids alone.
Leave our kids alone! Foley! Harris! Leave our kids alone!
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone. 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 Save our children.
Save our children!
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 Hey, Taoiseach, leave those kids alone.
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone!
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone!
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone!
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone!
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Taoiseach, leave our kids alone!
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Hey! Leave our kids alone!
Leave our kids alone. Hey, Taoiseach,
Leave our kids alone!
Leave our kids alone! Save our children! Leave our kids alone! Leave our kids alone!
No mic on that, is there? I'm okay with you. I'm with you. Thank you. I know that. Yeah, so I might be around today. just when you search stuff on YouTube, let me send it to you. No problem. It doesn't have to be today. You know, I don't think I'll even have it ready tomorrow. I might get it off how long are you here in North America? 2 weeks. I'm going on the next 2 weeks. You know, brilliant. No one else not the manager. On the weekend. Oh, weekend.
Save our children! Save our children! Save our children! Leave our kids alone! Leave our kids alone!
Hey, T-shirt, leave our kids alone! Save our children! Save our children! Save our children! No discrimination! No segregation! Protect our children! Protect our children! No discrimination! No discrimination! No segregation! No segregation! Protect our children! Protect our children! No discrimination! No segregation! No segregation! Protect our children! Protect our children! No discrimination! No discrimination! No segregation! No segregation! Protect our children! Protect our children! No discrimination! No discrimination! No segregation! No segregation! Protect our children! Protect our children! Hey! Leave our kids alone! 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 No discrimination! No discrimination! No segregation! No segregation! Protect our children! Protect our children! No discrimination! No discrimination! No segregation! No segregation! Protect our children! Protect our children! No discrimination! No discrimination! No segregation! No segregation! Protect our children! Protect our children! Oh, Taoiseach, leave those kids alone! Hey, Taoiseach, leave our 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 kids alone! Protect our children! No discrimination! No discrimination! No segregation! No segregation! Protect our children! Protect our children! No discrimination! No segregation! No segregation! Protect our children! Protect our children! Protect our children! Protect our children! Hey! Taoiseach! Leave our kids alone! Hey! Taoiseach! Leave our kids alone! Hey! Taoiseach! Leave our kids alone! No discrimination! No segregation! No discrimination! No segregation! No discrimination.
No discrimination.
Segregation.
No segregation.
Protect our children.
Protect our children.
Good call, Captain there. No discrimination.
No discrimination.
No segregation.
No segregation.
Protect our children.
Protect our children.
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone. Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Guys, should this banner be up there? I'd say there's no room for two, is there?
Tie it up. Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea. Oh, you've come twice. Not long enough. Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Baligi isteach le Bordal, isteach níos gula doing, mas féidir le drí suas. Move up, guys, if we can. Make a tighter gather.
I don't know, I brought it just. I did plan to be right here.
Is Christoph there? Did you want to set that up?
Yeah,
Set up Oh, you're okay.
Oh, okay.
Will it work, do you think?
You want to speak in that day?
Yeah. Oh no, what is it called now?
Leave our kids alone.
Hey, Taoiseach!
Leave our kids alone. Hey, Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Taoiseach, leave our kids alone. Taoiseach, leave our kids alone. Taoiseach, leave our kids alone. Taoiseach, leave our kids alone.
Hoida Maulin Montori, you were asked. Baligi isteach in Sol le Bordal. Agus denigi lína fehev con kaint and hol. Hoida, to any teachers here who want to express themselves, could you please come here so that you're within kind of reaching distance? While we're doing that, we'll modify our slogan. Hey, INTO, leave our kids alone. Hey, INTO, leave our kids alone. Hey, INTO,
Leave our kids alone.
hey, INTO,
Leave our kids alone.
We should have a sing song about Sing.
what is coming up for that, lads? Being that we're outside the offices of a union, unions traditionally should represent their members, should defend their interests. That's their purpose. And that's why unions members pay their dues. That they expect their working conditions to be defended, to be improved, reflecting the contribution they are making through their labour. And it's a shameful thing today that in a general sense, the trade union movement has betrayed the people. I have to say, in my own experience, Irish Congress of Trade Unions, all the big labour unions, they are silent, they are allowing their members to be attacked in this crisis, but not only in this crisis, right through the banking crisis. They could have resolved these issues, but they chose not to. They made a decision not to do that. Instead, they stood with the powers that be. And we frequently, I don't know about here, I don't have the inside detail, but we frequently see in other countries teachers' unions being sponsored by George Soros and all kinds of things. And we know money does not come without attachment on it and so on. But it's a shameful thing today that the unions are not standing by the people in their workplaces. We have queues of workers contacting us who are receiving threatening letters telling them that they must comply. Lily in Cork, for example, has issued letters to every employee telling them that they have to agree to be vaccinated and receive that injection by the 15th of November, or their contract, they say nicely, will not be terminated, but they will cease to be paid. There's a good structure for you. You're not fired, but we won't pay you anymore. There's some legalese, I'd say, some are worked out, which tells them they can do these things. But why are the workers' unions not standing up and saying to Lily and Cork, stop, you'll produce not one jot more while you want to abuse the working people in such a manner? That's what they should do. So I think we might be okay to hear from the teachers. This is a day, as I said again, for children, especially in a school environment, and we can't separate, of course, the teaching staff and the other staff in the schools from this occasion. So, Bavala Merdus, Ira Dinahan of Undore Fain, Barra, Kunnaurtlev Leverdol, Erin Overshin. Or can you thought of it?
Ramila Margaret Yemit. G of a Corja, from Brass Sauce of Enshul living up in you, Oscar Ifigi and Tio, August Rivshin Oscar, on the Rhine of Jacques. It's Misha Barra de Roste, August is Muntar Bunskula May. I'm a primary school teacher at Dewlach the Maliakle in Tala. I'm not going to stand here and preach to the converted. We're all like-minded here. We all know what's going on. You're all awake. You're all aware of the lies and the nonsense that's been spouted the last year and a half. And what we're here today is, what I want to do anyway, with this microphone in my hand, is deliver a message to a few cohorts of people. I can start with the Minister of Education, Norma Foley, and her overpaid civil servants across the way over there. The oldest tactic in the book in warfare has been divide and conquer. It's worked for centuries, for thousands of years, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. People today, speaking today, have already mentioned not to make this about the vaccinated or the unvaccinated. And it's very, very important we don't make it about that, because that is exactly what they want. We will play into their hands if that's what we do. They want us calling them sheep. They want them calling us tinfoil hat wearers and conspiracy theorists and all the rest. Please do not allow that to happen. We have to show compassion. I know there's some vaccinated people here today. I've been speaking to them, and I commend them for being here today. I commend them. Because we need them on our side. Unfortunately, there will be another lockdown. Most of us know that's going to happen September, October, November. And a lot of people who've been vaccinated are going to get annoyed and are going to want to direct their ire and anger at somebody. And it will be us, let's be honest. It'll be us first, then maybe the government. I'd ask everyone to remain calm, not get involved with it. Don't isolate them. We need them on our side. And by God, they don't realise it yet. They're going to need us on their side too as well. Particularly teachers. In my opinion, the greatest educationist of all time this country has ever seen was Patrick Pearse. Way ahead of his time. Way ahead of his time. And it's quite fitting that we're only 300, 400 metres away from GPO there. So let me just, being a real teacher here, I'm going to give a little quote from one of his poems. I came across it again by accident last night. It's taken from The Rebel, his poem The Rebel. And it's very fitting for this moment in time now, what's going on in the world and what's going on in this country. And just to send a little bit of a message, and I'll direct it that way towards Norma Foley, just over there, who's probably hiding in there somewhere in the toilets or whatever. She's afraid to come out. Okay, just a couple of lines of that poem. Beware. Beware of the thing that is coming. Beware of the risen people who shall take what ye would not give. Did ye think to conquer the people, or that law is stronger than life, or than men's desire to be free? We will try it out with you, ye that have harried and held, ye that have bullied and bribed, tyrants, hypocrites, liars. And that sums up exactly where we are now. We've been lied to. Everybody has been lied to. Some have fallen for it. Fair enough, that's okay. Don't criticise them for that. They're victims themselves. I want to address parents. I'll start with unvaccinated parents. I want you to know, I'm speaking personally, but I'm sure I can speak for lots of the teachers here. We as teachers, SNAs, school staff, will not stand idly by and watch your children be discriminated against. Rest assured of that. I will not have Johnny in my class being sent home because he has the sniffles, while little Mary can remain in school because her parents decided to vaccinate him. That's their choice, that's their right. Again, let's not make it something about the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated. This is about discrimination. And we cannot stand by and watch this. So having said that, I call on all teachers. Teachers aren't here today who might see these videos today, if it's allowed to go out there, of course, if it's not taken down. I call on all teachers in this country, please, please, I implore you, be brave. Stand up for the children you teach. Do not allow any children in your care be discriminated against. Whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, do not stand idly by and allow them be discriminated. Please. Vaccinated parents. I call on you also, and I want them to think of this very, very carefully. Their children have friends in school who might not come from a vaccinated family. And I know it's not mandatory in primary schools yet, it hasn't come in yet, but it will come. We didn't think vaccine passports would be here this time last year. It was rubbish, it was nonsense. It's here, so it is coming. So I would say to those parents, little Johnny again, who comes into your house and plays with your children after school every day, who perhaps is going to be discriminated against next year or in the next 6 months. Are you going to stand by and allow that your child's friend be discriminated against? Or what about if you have nieces and nephews, your brother and sister decided not to have their children vaccinated? Are you going to stand by and watch family members be discriminated against? Because this is what's going to happen. They will be discriminated against. And people need to know discrimination is discrimination, whether the law allows it or not. Discrimination is never right, it is wrong all of the time. Now, the unions. John Boyle of the INTO, Kieran Christie of ASTI, the STI, Michael Gillespie of the TUI, Kevin Callanan of Forres, who represents SNAs and other school staff. I call on them to be brave. I call them to have courage. I call on them to represent, as Dermot said, all teachers in this country, vaccinated, non-vaccinated. I'm sure it's not written in their memorandum or in their mission statement somewhere that they only represent a certain section of teachers. I demand that they represent me and all other teachers who've decided who have exercised their own bodily integrity and their right to choice not to get vaccinated. And I call on that now outside these offices.
And I'll say one thing, those general secretaries I just called out, they're all men. And be honest with you, that actually frightens me at the moment. Why? Well, most teachers in this country are female, the large majority of them. And I feel there's no men left in this country. There's a lot of them here. There's very few men left in this country with the courage. With no courage and no bravery. Back in the past, not so distant past, it was men who went to war, men who battled, and men who defended villages and defended their families. But real men, and what I've noticed over the last few months on social media, at marches and protests, it's always been, the majority of them, the women. Manon na Heron! Finally, to the teachers again, if you really class yourself as teachers and true teachers, push something aside from the curriculum and start focusing and teach children to know right from wrong. Teach children to decipher the nonsense and lies from the truth. Teach children to be able to recognize discrimination. Teach children to know that discrimination is wrong all of the time, regardless of what Michael D. Higgins, #NotOurPresident, signed into law. It is not right. It never is right. And just because the law says you can do it, it's not right. Teachers, teach the children this. I think now is the time for a radical overhaul of our education system. 100%. It's probably not going to come from over there. It probably will be us and like-minded people who are going to have to come up with our own curriculum at some stage. Well, all we are at the moment is producing little minions for the workforce and for global industry and whoever is willing to take them. So I'll just end with another quick quote from the great man himself, Patrick Pearse again. He wrote about education. He said, education is meant to foster. Diseducation is meant to repress. Education is meant to inspire. Diseducation is meant to tame. Education is meant to harden, but this education is meant to enervate. Gura míle maith agad.
Ordar Barna, for the new habit. One of us more than Craig son. We have a few more teachers here, folks. Bear with us. The Veckerman son, Tara, Dre, Little, Montoras, Corky.
Okay guys, we're going to leave it there. There's a couple more teachers speaking here, but we're going to have to cut it short because we have to go out and get ready to record some interviews with these teachers, which we're going to be shooting later on and hopefully have them online tomorrow or Friday. So please share this video if you can, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay.